I'm sitting on this one, just for necessity.
My name is Kate Ferrara, and I'm the outreach coordinator for Our Revolution Contra Costa. And we just want to thank everyone for being here today, and we especially want to thank Grant Street Pub and Pizzeria for being such amazing hosts. I am part of the millennial generation, even if I am a few years older than a 20-year-old. Part of a generation where 80% voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary.
Right on!
Yes.
So my story is the day after Christmas, 2015, I wandered into the Wellstone office for Bernie Sanders on University Avenue in Berkeley. 2 weeks later, I was working 20 plus hours a week on the Bernie Sanders campaign as an outreach volunteer coordinator for that office. We started out with 10 people coming in on Saturday, then 20, then 40, then 60. And by March, we were up to 100 filmmakers every Saturday making calls for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Together as an office, we made 50,000 calls for Bernie across the country, not only as the momentum of the grassroots movement building, but truly it was the volunteers that came in from various backgrounds and the grassroots organizers I met that were putting in 50 plus hours a week towards the end of the primary that are truly some of the best people I've met, not only in my life, but on the Bernie Sanders campaign. Woo! And some of those people are here in this room today. When I saw Bernie speak to 20,000 people in Sacramento, 16,000 people in Vallejo, and 60,000 people in Oakland, I walked away from those speeches saying, this is the country I want to live in.
Right on.
Yes.
I want to live in a country where education is a priority, where young people don't have to worry about student loans from college, where college tuition can be free to all, a country that recognizes income inequality and works to bridge the divisions of hate, racism, sexism, to truly create a democracy for the people, by the people, where we have equality for all. A country where healthcare is a right, not a privilege, where we have livable wages, and where the average person can thrive, not just survive.
Right on.
There is a Native American saying that says, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Well, this is the expression that embodies the movement of our revolution. The Republicans or the Koch brothers may have the power of money, but we have the people power. And that is where true change and true progress comes from. Now is the time not to turn our heads and say someone else will do it. Now is the time for all of us to step up to combat the issues of education, healthcare, the environment, immigration, with love, devotion, and guts. Because if we don't, who will? With the guidance of the amazing Nina Turner, who is the president of our revolution, and a powerhouse, and also the very inspiring and humble Bernie Sanders, we will come together to make changes towards progressive policy.
It's all right, man. You're doing great.
Make changes towards progressive policy and elect progressive candidates that will fight for the 350 million people in this country, not just 400 billionaire families.
Right on.
We are excited to have you all here today to celebrate Our Revolution Contra Costa's official endorsement of fellow Bernie-crat and Bernie organizer Kenji Yamada. And we are also very happy to have progressive candidate running against Dianne Feinstein, Allison Hartson, here to talk about why she's running for Senate and the changes we can make here in California that will affect the nation in moving forward and making true progress. I'm going to give the mic over to our chair, Our Revolution Contra Costa, Mark Van Lauderen, who has an impressive background as a writer and producer of The Jimmy Dore Show and was a Bernie delegate in Philadelphia amazing progressive activists throughout California. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you. In our organization, when millennials speak, we listen. All right. So when I say, how do you feel? You say powerful. How do you feel? Powerful. How do you feel? Powerful. How do you feel? Powerful. You are powerful. All of you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we are progressives. We're not just progressives, we're California progressives. We're not just California progressives, we are Bay Area progressives. All right? So how many people here have never been to an Our Revolution meeting before?
All right.
Welcome. So just real quick, Our Revolution, we've got 400 chapters all across the country, and we've got chapters all across the globe, in Europe, and in Asia, and Africa. Truly, yeah, we just got a new one. And we were born out of the Bernie Sanders campaign, and basically, we're troublemakers. We're troublemakers. We're here to make the establishment nervous. And we make them nervous because we know what we want, and we know what we're fighting for. And so, Kate gave a great speech. Well, thank you, Kate. Thank you. What else is there left to say? So when we say we want health care for all, we want health care for all. When we say we want education for all, we mean for all. When we say justice for all, we mean for all. When we say we want to raise the wages of workers, we mean it. And we don't want excuses from politicians. Show, don't tell. Show. So, I am happy to turn the microphone over to the co-chair of Our Revolution, Contra Costa. She is an activist who is always active. She is my political guru. She is so strong. She is so strong. The beautiful, the brilliant, the powerful. Please give it up for Lucy Riley.
Wow, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. All 50 years of me appreciates that. All right. So, folks, when we're talking about our revolution, let's get down to business. What we're talking about, all right, is a rallying cry for working class people in this country. What we're talking about is organizing a movement that is going to put working class people first. What we're talking about is drawing a hard line in the sand on corporate campaign donations. We are the movement of $27 raising $46 million and changing the entire political dynamic for the Democratic Party in this country. We are the movement that is going to every nook and cranny here in the state of California where poor communities have been neglected and left behind by the fundraising arm of the Democratic Party because they are fundraising wastelands.
Say that, yes.
If you can't raise $1 million in a poor community, establishment arm of the Democratic Party, Wall Street arm of the Democratic Party, they don't want anything to do with you. In Richmond, California, where I'm a proud member of the Richmond Progressive Alliance, we like to think that we planted the seed of the inside-out strategy. On our city council, we now have 5 RPA endorsed candidates. None of them have taken corporate campaign donations. That is the first line of defense in their platform. Each and every one of these candidates signed on to work towards building a Democratic Party. Big tent idea, right? That's not necessarily called the Democratic Party. And I want to make that clear, folks, because we've got Greens in the RPA. We've got proud, unapologetic socialists in the RPA. And we have got damn strong backbone progressive Democrats in the RPA. We've got progressive Democrats who refuse to apologize for not taking corporate campaign donations. We've got progressive Democrats who will unapologetically support SB 562. Unapologetically support rent control. We passed the first rent control measure in the state of California in 30 years, folks. We did it by getting out and knocking on doors 18 months in advance, having heart-to-heart conversations with all of our voters, because that's where it is, folks. We are the commercial. We don't need million-dollar campaigns with big, flashy billboards. You know what we need? We need many hands, make light work. We need you. This is a people-powered movement. Thank you so much for being here. And let's hear from some of our candidates.
Thank you, Lucy Riley. One more time, Lucy Riley. Thank you all for stepping out of your homes, stepping away from your internet, Facebook pages, your Twitter pages, and stepping into democracy, stepping into your community, embracing your power. So thank you for being here. Well, we're going to be hearing from candidates tonight, and this is important. One of the biggest disasters to befall our political system was the Supreme Court ruling of Citizens United. And it was preceded by the ruling of Valeo versus Buckley, which said that money is speech. You combine that with Citizens United, which says that corporations are people, and now you have the crisis of democracy that we're in now. So when I was with the Jimmy Dore Show, with the Young Turks, at the Young Turks studio, there was one person who was always being talked about in politics. This was before Bernie Sanders. And this was not someone who was an elected official. This was a teacher. And this teacher was amassing extraordinary victories throughout the country. Wolfpack. She was the national director for Wolfpack. And yes, central to the movement of getting money out of politics.
Right on.
Yes, it's needed. And so this teacher was getting victories in Vermont, Rhode Island, California, starting things happening in Connecticut, in Illinois, and other places. Well, this person, I'm happy to say, has stepped up to run one of the most important races in California, a race that's going to affect the entire United States. She's running against a young, unknown up-and-comer by the name of Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein, she's a constant frustration for just even regular Democrats in California. Her political views are stuck in the 70s, the 1870s. So I want you to be ready. I want you to be ready for what's going to be happening here in California. We've got primaries. 2018 is now. It is now. And so we've got our work cut out for us. And we've got to make sure that the blue wave is not just a blue wave, it's a progressive blue wave.
Right on.
And so with that, please help me welcome the fantastic, the splendid, the Justice Democrat, the National Director of Wolfpack, Allison Hartson.
That was lovely. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Is it evening yet? All right. I'm going to ask you all to finish my sentences. And I don't need to prep you for it because you all know what we deserve. You ready? Medicare for all. College for all. Preschool for all. Living wages for all. Justice for all. That's right. You know why I'm running for office. We are done asking our legislators to do the right thing. We are done asking Dianne Feinstein to actually represent us.
Hello.
Bernie Sanders in 2016 electrified the world, and he transformed, his campaign transformed the consciousness of our country. Something we haven't seen since 2010 with Occupy. Now, here we are. We have got to make sure that we bring Bernie Sanders the backup he needs in the Senate.
right? That's why we are here to continue the revolution. We have all of you sitting in traffic, probably, definitely moving around your schedules to make sure that you could be here tonight. This is why we are here to back him up. I am running for United States Senate of the largest state in the entire union because of this movement. I am running because our power is massive. Our influence for the state of California is gigantic. When we stand together and we show the corporate machine that we are not going to stand down, we are not going to be intimidated, we are not going to be silenced, that is how we start a revolution. When we lock arms and we tell the corporate machine, yes, we will fight for our families, yes, we will fight for our neighbors, yes, we will do it with the fierce urgency of now, that is how we remove fear and inject hope in its place.
Right on.
That is how we win. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I was born in Orange County, born and raised there, to a fairly large family of 8 brothers and sisters. I was told by a lot of people that I would follow in the footsteps of some of the people in my family and not graduate high school. So I went on to become the first person in my family to graduate college. I was then told that I would not be an effective public high school teacher. So I went on to design and teach an intervention program for our most at-risk youth to help them achieve the things they were told they couldn't do, and it worked. I taught in a low-income community with first and second generations, predominantly first and second generation students from Mexico. I thought I had seen and felt the effects of income and wealth inequality. But it was when I taught in a community of color that I saw it on a whole nother level. And I couldn't stomach it. I couldn't take it anymore, and that's when I decided to basically take my own advice that I always gave my students and figure out what is the root cause of the rigged economy. What is the root cause of all that is happening so that we can truly solve it, not just band-aid it. That's when I came to the conclusion it is definitely the corrupting influence of money in our political system. The rest is history for me. I got active in every single group that is working on money, getting money out of politics here in California. Soon I found Wolfpack. Wolfpack's sole mission is to get an amendment to the United States Constitution that will overturn Citizens United and related cases. I soon became the California State Director. I organized thousands of volunteers throughout the state, and I was told by most people I was wasting my time. So I successfully led the passage of our measure through the California State Legislature. And then I did the same thing in New Jersey, and then we did the same thing in Rhode Island, and we've now passed it in 5 states, and we have a chapter in almost all 50 states.
Right on!
Tell us we can't do this. I dare someone to tell us we can't do this. So it was through my experience with Wolfpack, traveling around the country, because eventually I became the national director. I made the very difficult decision to step down as a teacher, and through my experience traveling the country, working with state legislators in blue states, I realized that if we're going to get the progressive policies passed that we need to, we're going to have to do it ourselves. It's not enough for us to be on the outside. Our grassroots pressure is critical. We must grow it, we must strengthen it. But we have got to start running for office. We have got to start voting for people who are corporate free through and through. That is why I'm not taking corporate money. I'm not taking any PAC money. I'm a Justice Democrat. I am a progressive Democrat. And that has always been who I am. So I am elated to see this movement that keeps all of us going strong. We have got to win by doing it from the inside out and the outside in and the ground up. That we've got to come at them from every single angle. So here I am. Like you, I am pissed, pumped, and passionate.
Right on!
I, every single day, know what we are capable of, and that is what keeps me moving forward. I know what we deserve. You know what we deserve. When we show the corporate machine that we are not going to back down, we will achieve. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Our weapon is our vote." So tonight, I am here to ask you for your vote. Are we going to continue down the same path, fighting the same battles, using the same weapons, or are we going to truly be the very change that we seek?
Yes. Yes.
I am running for United States Senate because we know what we are capable of, we know what we deserve, and it is time that we show the entire world what we truly represent. We don't want power, we want justice,
Yes.
and we are going to get it.
Right
Thank you.
on.
So we're going to take some questions from the audience. The only request is make sure your question is in the form of a question. So if anyone would like to ask a question, please go ahead, raise your hand. You sure are. You sure are. Anybody? Wow, we have a shy crowd. Oh my goodness. So,
I heard that you are supporting education from preschool through college, and I think that's really important. How do you plan on doing that?
There are so many ways that we can do this. One of them is, I don't know if you're familiar with the Head Start program that we have. We need to better fund our Head Start program. We need to fully fund it and help to strengthen it. That really helps to serve our low-income communities. We really need to have paid family leave, paid parental leave, paid vacation. That's going to help as well. And then we also need to strengthen our K-12 program. We need to really make sure that our school districts have more local control over the decisions that they make for their families, because every district is different in this state alone, let alone throughout the entire country. When we invest in early education, childcare, and preschool, we know that by the time a student gets to 3rd grade, it tells us whether they're going to wind up in college or prison. So by investing in early education, that is an investment in college, and it is an investment in divesting from our privatized prison system. And so I also full support for college for all, free college for all, and also making sure too that we incentivize strong vocational schools, trade schools, ROP programs that can help people. Not everybody's on the path to college. And that is perfectly okay, and things are changing right now when it comes to education and service jobs. So there's a lot to be done in education, I'm excited about it. I have to add one more thing, because this is a big thing happening right now, charter schools. None of our tax dollars should be used for private schools in any way whatsoever. Yeah.
This is going to be a very difficult question. What you're talking about is going to require that people either pay higher taxes, particularly if they're affluent, or they're a reasonably affluent place like Moraga, and or their stock portfolios are going to lose value, let's say because they're invested in charter schools or private prisons or healthcare, insurance, that black hole. What do you say to that people are going to actually have to dig in to support the public interest?
First of all, we already have the money without raising taxes. College for All alone, 5% of the cost of the Iraq War would pay for College for All. So we have the money. The question is, do we have the priorities? We have the money for healthcare for all. Investing in our people through healthcare, through a living wage tied to inflation, through education is the best way to actually have a thriving economy. Economists know this. So we have to make sure that we're really redirecting people away from being worried about raising our taxes in that way. Also, we need to be talking as well about corporate welfare. No corporation should pay less than an individual. So we've got to close, and there's a number of ways to do that, including closing the tax loopholes. This record drop in the corporate tax rate this last year that just happened. You know, some of the biggest corporations are actually paying negative taxes, right? Because of the way that they offshore their taxes. So we need to address that as well. But I will tell you this. We are also already paying way more in a lot of ways for these programs by people not being covered by healthcare, for example. So if me paying more in taxes means that every single person has true equal opportunity to a good, quality, sustainable life, that is absolutely worth it to me. And I think it's worth it to all of us.
Hi there, my name is Matt. I was a local delegate for Bernie when I lived in Iowa. Before I moved out here, I'm a major supporter of Bernie's platform, of the Justice Democrat platform, particularly against corporate corruption in politics. And I talked a little bit on Facebook, and the one disappointment I had with Senator Sanders' platform was his silence on animal agriculture. And, yeah, definitely. And I mean that very sincerely when I'm a supporter, and we've seen the silence, and I'm a big fan of Jimmy Dore, the Young Turks. Like I'm truly a fan on all these platforms, but I don't understand the silence on animal ag, which we know is a massive contributor to climate change. It's a massive user of water in an era where California is experiencing drought. It's a massive polluter, often it disadvantages communities of color. And as Ms. Riley pointed out, these poor communities are just so often left behind, and communities of color in particular too. And last but not least, there's billions of animals, and I think most folks here have probably seen the videos. 99% of the animals we use for food are living in horrific factory farm conditions. So I see an animal agriculture industry which has, we have grounds to criticize them on every ground we criticize fossil fuels on and pharmaceutical, and for good reason. But even more so, frankly, with animal agriculture, and we see, tens of billions of dollars are sent to animal agriculture via the Farm Bill. And I think that there should be some action on this, and I'm not sure if it's a political thing or for whatever reason, it's just never mentioned. So I ask you today, will you come out against government handouts to this violent, destructive, and actually completely unnecessary industry that is animal agriculture?
Good question. Right on.
Such a good question. First of all, I will just start with yes. Second of all, I will elaborate, okay? One of the first actions I took when I went into college and kind of had this transformative experience, being the first one in my family and all of that, and being born and raised in conservative Orange County, was I became a vegetarian. And full transparency, I'm not a vegetarian anymore. But I became a vegetarian because of the environment. I was learning in college about the effects of this massive agricultural production and how it is one of the #1 causes of global warming. And people don't talk about that. And you are so right. I do think that it's a political thing. I think people have a lot to lose with money. I assume that people are worried about it seeming like that we're going to be attacking farmers. And so it's a difficult conversation for people to have. So I think it's really important that we constantly bring it back to what we're talking about is supporting our local sustainable farmers. Right? That's really what it's about. And it's the massive production of not just animals, but also what I learned since then, but also vegetables. The massive production of food is what is not just leading to environmental degradation. Degradation? Did I say that right? It's also leading to world hunger. And this happens when we grow our crops to feed it to the animals to consume more meat than we need, rather than those grains going to some of the poorest countries in the world that we know would otherwise never, ever, not a single child would ever go hungry if we didn't mass produce animals in this way, let alone the abuses that these beautiful animals endure and you can barely stomach them. So yes, I would be glad to support that. We need to shed more of a light on that particular issue. So thank you for your activism on it.
I know that when I'm John, by the way. I know that when Bernie started, he was barely measurable in the polls. He often mentioned that he had like 3% name recognition, and that might have been in Vermont. But by the time he had finished, he was drawing tens of thousands of people to his rallies, and if it hadn't been for the problem of superdelegates, would probably be our president today.
Right on.
What are your plans for gaining name recognition and beginning to get our message statewide, or maybe nationwide?
Yeah. Well, it's already starting, so I'm happy to tell you that. Overall, our plan is to use the money that we do have in order to, instead of relying on very expensive mailers that people don't pay attention to anymore, and paid TV programming, we are relying on free media, independent media, and the internet. And so that's where we're putting our money there. We have a few staff members that have recently been hired. Sarah here is with me. And we just all do the work of like 3 or 4 full-time people, no joke. You all know how it is. And so we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we are traveling around the state, going to as many counties as possible, trying to come and speak to as many people as possible and get the word out there. And I see that it is working. So it's funny that you say 3%, because that's what I just pulled at like last month. And then the next runner-up at 4%, and then Dianne Feinstein at like 40-something, dropping in the polls. And now this last poll, of course, they didn't even put my name on there. So these are all of the neat ways that they control who we get to vote for. So yes, thank you for your question. We are definitely on that. Are there others?
One last question.
I'm Greg Colley from Concord Communities Alliance, and I just want to follow up on that question. The other side of it is helping those of us who are on the ground doing grassroots organizing understand how we can integrate with your campaign to help that on the ground aspect, and also do what we can to push back against party endorsement processes and things like that. For the details on that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. That is a great question. So I think the best way, if there's anything in particular specifically you would like to do to coordinate with my campaign, talk to Sarah tonight. She's right here. And we can exchange information and take it from there. But we have Abby Bateman is our grassroots coordinator right now, and we are building a super strong volunteer team throughout the entire state. That should be included in my last response as well. We have people who are canvassing and knocking on doors in every single area or zone of the entire state, and making phone calls on a regular basis. So we have a system actually in place. Justice Democrats, who I'm endorsed by, is there anybody here who's not aware of who Justice Democrats is? So Justice Democrats is run by former Bernie organizers who ran the Bernie movement or campaign at the national level. So a lot of the tools that Bernie used, like the dialer for phone banking, is what we have for my campaign as well. So there are many ways, and then it also helps as many groups that you're involved in. Let us know. I'm happy to come and speak to anybody. Yeah.
So I'm going to abuse my privilege and ask one question. So in this race, there's a lot of people who've taken up the mantle of being progressive. Progressive is sort of the flavor of the month now in politics. What distinguishes you from the rivals in this race?
Progressive, the word, like all words, is very easy to throw around. So I think it is incredibly important that we draw a very clear line in the sand. That being progressive means that you take absolutely no corporate money. No. It's got to start there. And then, of course, you have the issues that we support that we've talked about. And I think after that, we really have to look at our experiences and our values. You know, the policies that we all support and fight for, they come from the values that lie in our heart. And so I do think it's important to know what some of these values are and how we know that those values are really true to them. Because I will tell you this in my experience with Wolfpack. The pressure that you experience from lobbyists and from other legislators and then from the constituency pulling you in a million different directions is real. It is tough. We have to have people who have a spine. We have to have people who have thick skin. And the way that you have that is to know who you are so that you never sell out your values, so that you never sell out your constituents' values. And with me in particular, this is something that I have been doing well before I even knew who Bernie Sanders was. And so that's, I guess, what I would say distinguishes me from everybody else.
Thank you, Allison Hartson. Allison Hartson. Thank you so much.
So thank you all so much for being here today. And I'm a woman, and it's so amazing to see women like you because it's absolutely inspirational. I did want to point out just something that my friend said. We're talking about sustainable and organic farms. So I'm an investigator, and I've been to many dozens of farms that are so-called humane. And I just wanted to let people know, because I know all of you are caring people and care about where your food is coming from. 99% of the animals that are raised for food are raised in factory farming conditions. And it's horrible. And, as someone who's experienced racism, I was an immigrant, I came from India, that's what inspired me to take action for animals. I remember feeling so victimized and not having anyone speak up for me, and that's exactly why I speak up for animals today. So, one of the most horrible things is to see baby animals being brutalized, and then companies like Whole Foods, which we know, they're marketing these lies, and they're making millions of dollars, but it's on the backs of poor people, poor animals, and they're calling it humane. But I've walked inside of those farms, rescued baby animals, and I know what happens to them. So I just wanted to say that if you truly care about citizens, animals are citizens too. So let's help all of them. And I would say that people over here probably care about your dogs and cats, right? Pigs, cows, and chickens, as someone who is friends with them, are no different. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Priya, is that your name? Thank you so much for your passion on this. Truly. The other thing too is that pigs, cows, chickens are just as smart as dogs or cats, and they have the intelligence of a 2 to 5-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like treating our 2 to 5-year-old children that way.
Yeah.
It is absolutely heartbreaking. So I really, really, genuinely love your passion on this. Please keep up the fight. I would love to sit down and figure out how to move forward together. And the other thing I wanted to say too, you probably know this, but Gandhi said that if our factories, if our animal factories had glass walls, everybody would be a vegetarian.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is proof that we are a true democracy. We let people speak. And also we care in branding. We care in branding. So thank you, Allison, so much. Thank you. Thank you. We have another person here who's running in a very, very important race. He's been endorsed by Our Revolution Contra Costa, but we are so fantastic that he keeps coming back. Candidates come back. They love us so much. And he's also running against someone who's, kind of in the shadows these days. Someone by the name of Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi, who is against single payer, and who just recently, despite an 8-hour filibuster, there were 67 Republicans who voted for the Paul Ryan budget. And so Nancy Pelosi gave Paul Ryan 71 Democrat votes to have it pass. We've got a problem right here in the Bay Area. We need to address it. And there is one candidate who is going to address that. And he's with us now, the brilliant civil rights attorney, Mr. Stephen Jaffe.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Lucy. I'm honored to be here, and I'm proud to be endorsed by this organization. I don't want to talk about my platform tonight. I'll be glad to talk to as many of you as long as you want after that. I came here to talk about one thing. I worked for Bernie Sanders in 2015 and 16, and I was recruited by the national organization. I was sent to Nevada to help legally supervise what turned out to be the incredibly chaotic Nevada caucuses. And when Bernie lost the nomination, I shared some of the same sentiments that a lot of you here did. I got pissed. And when Trump was elected, I was horrified. That's one of the reasons I'm running. But I saw a thing on Facebook this morning, and it was a question, one of these, I don't know if to say the word right, meme, is that what it's called? Does anyone think the DNC will now play fair after learning its election, or learning its lessons in 2016? Play fair. The answer is no, and I want to talk about that today because I want to talk about a personal experience and an experience of two other candidates here in the state of California as we have been interacting with the California Democratic Party in connection with the forthcoming convention, which is a week from Friday. I'll tell you my story. It doesn't take that long. There is this thing in the bylaws of the California Democratic Party which says if an incumbent Democrat wants to run for the same office again, the incumbent Democrat gets an automatic endorsement of the party. I agree. The only loophole in that is if someone challenges the incumbent and collects 20% of the delegates in that district, and for statewide it means the state, and can challenge the automatic endorsement. So I went out to collect my signatures. A friend of mine who's running for the Assembly against Assembly Speaker Rendon, another favorite, went out and collected her signatures, and somebody running in Alice's race, Pat Harris, he got in by a certain minimum money donation. All three of us were turned down by the California Democratic Party. In my case, they sent me a list of eligible delegates on January 5th. I needed 37 signatures to challenge Ms. Pelosi's automatic endorsement. I turned in 41. They disqualified a bunch of them, but I still had 37. And then the party said this to me after the door had closed to submitting signatures. Oh, by the way, the list we sent you on January 5th, that wasn't the real list. We had a secret list that's larger. And we didn't tell you about it, but you missed by one. Sorry, you're out of luck. That was my experience. There's more to this. My friend Maria Estrada, who was running against Rendon, she turned in her signatures. She turned them in at 11 o'clock on the day they were due. They actually weren't due until 5 p.m. that day. The moment she turned in her signatures, her petitions were delivered to Rendon's office. The moment she was, that's right. And Rendon's office, and ultimately Rendon himself, began calling the people who had signed the petitions, trying to get them to rescind their signatures. He was successful. He was successful in 2 cases under question. We don't know what was said to them, whether they were bribed, threatened, or whatever. And they turned in rescissions the next day. The next day after the door had been closed. The California Democratic Party ruled a few days ago, too bad, Ms. Estrada, you're off, no challenge. That's the second one. The third one has to do with Pat Harris, who's in Allison's race, and he has a few bucks around. He self-funded $250,000 and then raised another 30. So when they said, how much have you raised? You need 250 to get on the ballot. He said, I've raised 280. And the California Democratic Party said to him, sorry, you haven't. We're not going to count self-funding. We're not going to count self-funding, even though there were other candidates who had also self-funded that they did not disqualify. What's the message I'm sending you? This organization is called Our Revolution. 2 words, our, us. And revolution, the revolution is still going, folks. Because here in California, this is the party that we are dealing with if you're participating in the Democratic Party. So what I want to ask you today is if you are a member of the Democratic Party, if you are a member, send an email or make a phone call to the Democratic Party headquarters and just say, please, I don't care for the way you are dealing with the pre-endorsement process. You are cheating legitimate candidates. It is not a coincidence that the 3 people whose candidacies were being challenged are themselves iconic incarnations of the establishment. Dianne Feinstein, Nancy Pelosi, and the Speaker of the Assembly. And the party is protecting its incumbents. So that is my speech tonight. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Hi, Susanna Williams. I'm a delegate to the CDP. I'm pretty aware of all of this. Yeah. I have a question for you as an attorney. So this is.
Let me change hats here.
Yeah, exactly. This is with regards to what happened. I believe it's wrong. Lovely. Okay, so this is concerning Maria Estrada's challenge. So from what I understand, her challenge went to appeals committee, which Gary Shea heads up as chair of the rules committee. He admitted in writing that what happened was wrong and it was something that needed to be addressed and changed. However, he still ruled in favor of, yeah, so what is our recourse? Because seriously, this is not setting well with a huge percentage of the delegates. I'm pissed off about it and I want to do something.
That hearing was also heard my matter and also heard Pat Harris's matter, and I listened to it. They would not allow us to attend or speak. We were allowed to listen. Yes, in all 3 of the cases, they said, this is wrong, we have to fix it, but not this year. That's the same thing they said. That is the same thing they said when Kimberly Ellis challenged Eric Bauman. This is wrong, we have to fix it, but not this year, Mr. Bauman, you're in.
I think this is something worth taking a line in the sand and doing something. Can we sue them? This is
you want me to wear my lawyer hat or my candidate hat? The lawyer hat, to be honest with you, is maybe. There are some very complicated legal issues on this as to what exactly the Democratic Party is. The courts have jurisdiction over it, and how much due process are we entitled? Do we have a right to be a candidate? Do we have a right to do this? Those are very complicated.
It's a big party and we ain't invited.
That's right. I will just tell you that that is a subject matter under intense research and scrutiny as we speak right now. Okay.
Right on.
Stephen, since you're here, I want you to tell everyone why Our Revolution Contra Costa endorsed you.
Why did you endorse me? Well, that's a good question. I think it's because, I like to think it's because I'm the real deal.
Right on.
I'm the real deal. I don't, like Allison was talking about, I don't take corporate money. None's been offered to me anyway, because corporations want to give money to me. My platform, I think, is consistent. I think my statements on all the issues are consistent. And I've been waiting a long time to do this, and I took Bernie seriously when he said, stop talking about it and run for something.
Right on.
So that's what I've done.
Oh, yeah. Right on.
To answer that, I wasn't here for the vote, so my platform. Well, my platform is long, the kind of the centerpiece issues on them. The first and obvious one is Medicare for all.
Woo!
I do not mean universal coverage, and I do not mean universal access. Those are two euphemisms for keeping private insurance companies in the mix. All right? It's got to be Medicare for all. I am anti-war, and what I've been saying is the United States has become culturally and economically addicted to being in a state of perpetual war. Our economy almost depends upon it. Why is that? It used to be when we needed to take military action, we'd crank up the factories, we'd make what we needed, and off to war we went. Now, we go to war to keep the factories busy. Things are completely turned on their head, and that's got to stop. The Trump military budget is obscene. I would not have voted for it, unlike a certain challenging a lot of things. I wouldn't have voted for the NSA spying. I want to abolish superdelegates.
Right on.
I want to decriminalize mental illness.
Right on.
Are there any particular, I'd like to ask, what particular issues concern those of you here? Yes, sir.
One issue that is sometimes dividing even the progressive slice of the political spectrum that we're building here is the issue of racial justice. I have noticed in some conversations, some progressives, and frankly it's usually white progressives, talk about racial justice as if it's something that we should not be discussing because it will divide us, rather than treating it as an essential issue of justice and doing right by everyone. Where do you stand on that?
Well, you may know this or not, this is the easiest no-brainer for me. I have been a civil rights employment law lawyer for employees only for 47 years. I make my living representing every possible ethnicity, color, religion, disability, marital status, sexual orientation, you name it. I have represented women, African Americans, Muslims, Sikhs. So I have had the full immersion for 4.5 decades. And frankly, if that doesn't explain what my position is, I believe the law has to be blind. And everyone. We have to be a little different. We have to be aware of what's gone on in the past. We have what's gone on in the past. I can't stand in front of a judge and talk about the history of slavery because it's irrelevant to the court case. But you can when you're passing laws politically. You can talk about what's happened in the past. Racial justice affects everything. To use the new word, it intersects with everything. A lot of new words I'm learning. So I hope does that answer your question?
Right on. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next congressman from District 12, Stephen Daffy. So, I was a Bernie Sanders delegate in 2016, and what Stephen is talking about, it's very unfamiliar. It's very shocking to me. You can see by the expression on my face. This is strange what he's saying about the party. What happened to myself and my fellow Bernie delegates in Philadelphia and all through the process was amazing, outrageous, and unbelievable, which makes it a perfect subject for a book. And we have someone who actually did write that book. We're so grateful that he came up at the last minute. We're including him in the agenda. Please help me welcome the writer for My Journey with Bernie, Casey Carpenter.
Well, it's awesome to be here at the Art Revolution Contra Costa. When my family moved to California back in 1972, we moved out here to Contra Costa. This rocks. We've got candidates, we've got revolutionaries, and this is just awesome. This is what it's all about, power of the people. So yeah, here's my book, and this is a story. It's kind of like my viewpoint about my experience, but really there's millions of us that had different experiences. And this book is about the people I met and the lessons I learned. And I'll be honest with you, we've got 4 kids in college. Before Bernie, I was just working, being a parent, pretty much out of touch with what was going on. I believed when I saw PD. And literally, when I met Bernie Sanders, I felt the burn. He said, look, and he pointed right at me. I've been doing this for 50 years, but it's about you getting out. Next thing I know, I was co-leading 300 people from 30 states to go to Iowa. So we went to Iowa and changed my life. And so kept going. I ended up going to 10 states. Delegate in Philadelphia, which was life-changing. Believe me, it was amazing because we would have won. But after the experience in Iowa, I remember going, Bernie, what do we do next? And Bernie said, well, we need people to run across this country. It's got to be grassroots, bottoms up. So I was standing there next to Lenny Siegel. Lenny Siegel was at the time on the city council. He goes, Casey, you should run for Mountain View City Council. Turns out there was a big measure that year based on actually what Richmond Progressive Alliance started for rent control, Measure V. So I ran as the only candidate, 3 mayors, 2 incumbents, 7 establishments, and me, running with no money, no campaigns, but I had one message. We're going to get affordable housing into Mountain View, and we passed it. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars against us. And so that was my first victory. And so this book is really my opportunity. I knew in Philly I had to write this book. It was all in my head. And it wasn't until last July that I finally had time to sit down. And it was, I would just, every day I'd go and I'd start just remembering. And I was crying, I was laughing, I was having these memories. And after a few weeks, I had way too much content. I thought, how am I going to get this published? I think there's another 2 or 3 books here. But my goal is to actually travel around, do the same journey I did for Bernie, but continue it in our revolution groups around California. And then also I'm going to Iowa. We've got a great Bernie crowd running for Congress in Iowa, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida. I'm going to try to hit a few other states. Because what we're doing in California, you guys probably don't understand just how important California is. What we do here, other states are looking to us to lead. And so, I'm using this book as a platform to tell our stories, but it's just one of many. So, and actually at the end, I have a short little lessons learned. And I think it's important we share these lessons learned because there's other revolution groups all over California, all over the country. And when we do something like in Richmond, and we can say, let's just scale it across California, across the country, that's how we take over the power. So I hope, I'm actually doing a special offer tonight. This book is available for $14.99, but I've got a special deal for all revolution for $10, signed copies. And also, if anyone wants me to come and speak to other groups, I'd appreciate it too.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you. My journey was great. Any questions for Casey? It's all right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for the
No problem. The big jar for donations or actually for the book, for paying for the book.
Woo!
The resistance to Donald Trump starts right here on the local level. The resistance to Trumpism has to start happening here on the local level. We need to have a progressive wave that includes every level of office. There is no position that is too small for a progressive to come in and to make a difference. And so we're not just running and supporting great candidates, we're also trying to recruit to find the best in our area. And we have the best in our area. We need to find somebody, the people that know policy and know the people. And will be there to fight for the people. And when we heard that this person might run, we said to him, you've got our endorsement if you run. I'm going to have someone very close give the introduction. So this is a series of introductions for how great, to give you an idea how great this candidate is. Laura Nakamura, could you come up and give us the rundown on our friend?
Woohoo! Thank you very much, Mark. First of all, I really want to give a shout out to Grant Street Pub because they're an amazing establishment here in Colorado. And I know that all of the speakers tonight are very, very riveting, but I would hope that everyone orders something to eat and drink and really enjoy your time here with all these great people that we are celebrating tonight. I'm Laura Nakamura. I am with Concord Communities Alliance. Might sound a little like RPA, but we are
We are moving to gather groups together here in Concord and bring credible pressure to places like the City Council where it needs to be.
Right on!
I'm a longtime resident of Concord and very proud of it. My role today here is to introduce to you a very special person, a vegan, and an upcoming leader here in Concord. I first met Kenji in early May of 2016 on some Facebook page for bikes. And I had just started riding my bike from work, and I was looking for people to kind of connect with. And Kenji, he welcomed me in like he does everyone. And he welcomed me in and invited me to come to a city council meeting. A week later, Greg and I played hooky and went to our first Bernie rally in Stockton, where we were standing with thousands of people at 7 a.m. around a lake that the line seemed to last forever. It was a very empowering event. I came back jazzed and excited, and the whole event with hearing Bernie for the first time, but knowing of him, it was very hope-filled. And I came back and made my first ever public comment at a city council meeting.
Yeah. Right on.
So I have a lot. I owe a lot of the encouragement that I felt, a lot to Bernie, but also to Kenji for just feeling encouraging me to do that. So I just also want to add that I'm not big on public speaking. I actually hate it. But when it's something I feel passionate about, I can do it. And I do feel very passionate about Kenji, and I feel like our city, the city of Concord, it would be very blessed to have him represent us and be part of the city council here. He has great leadership skills, and I know that he would be doing a phenomenal job. So today I'm here and proud to be able to announce him as a city candidate, a candidate for city council, and I'm really, I'd also want to congratulate you for the endorsement of the Our Revolution group.
Right on!
I'm going to turn this over to Greg. Greg and I are co-conspirators, among other things, and he wanted to say a couple words as well.
Thank you, Laura!
I'm Greg Colley, and I am also with Concord Communities Alliance, and I think we all know, we have known now for quite some time the need for a different kind of politics. Politics that unleashes the power of the grassroots with real leadership that actually respects the grassroots. And I want to talk very briefly about a few ways that Kenji Yamada demonstrates that, how he is taking the lead on doing exactly that. Last summer, I got better acquainted with Kenji in a series of meetings that gave birth to Concord Communities Alliance after the fashion of the RPA. Work locally, get it done here. I met a man who demonstrated deep integrity, deep respect for the voices of diversity, and a deep commitment to getting money out of politics. Woo! I met a man who is taking the lead on ensuring that the electorate knows what a candidate stands for, not just what they will do to repay the favors that they owe to their large corporate donors. I met a man who is taking the lead on doing what Bernie asked us to do: stop talking and start running.
Right on.
So I just want to say I am also proud to be here to express my support publicly for Kenji Yamada, and at the risk of using another bicycle metaphor, tell him how glad I am that it is time to take the training wheels off.
Thank you very much, Laura and Greg, for those kind words and love. My name is Kenji Yamada, and I'm running for Concord City Council. first want to thank our Revolution Contra Costa, both for their endorsement and for their work organizing us here in this county. I'm honored to be a member of this group and to contribute my part along with other progressive candidates like Stephen Jaffe and Allison Hartson to realize the values for which our revolution exists. And those values are often expressed as abstractions: equity, dignity, inclusion. But abstract values, as important as they are, translate into concrete realities that shape our lives and the lives of our neighbors. For instance, can you be confident that your family will be together tomorrow? Or do you have reason to fear that you may be separated by force at any moment? Many Concord residents know what a lack of inclusion means, as the federal government threatens to deport them or their loved ones, and our current county sheriff is happy to facilitate that threat. Will your right to exist in public spaces be respected, or will you be treated as an object to be swept away for the comfort of others? Homeless residents in Concord know what it means to lack dignity when our police department is called on to drive them out of Tula Santos Plaza and put them out of the sight of those who have homes. Will your wages be enough to keep you and your family housed, or will the price of a decent life exceed what you can earn? Many residents who rent here in Concord know what a lack of equity means when their need for a home and their very ability to remain in this community are treated as less important than the desire of some landlords to maximize profits. The answers to those vital questions are heavily shaped by government. We see threats to our communities at the federal level. Those threats do require a response, and there's lots of good people working to provide that response. It's important to contribute to those efforts. But I think each of us has at some point felt that our ability to shape national policy is pretty small compared to the size of the need. We do get discouraged sometimes. And we need ways to feel and to see that it's worthwhile giving our time and our energy. And for me, the best place to find that encouragement has been local politics. The problems are here, they're just at a local scale. Big money, resistance to change, prejudice, indifference to the needs of vulnerable people. But here at the levels of our city and our county, the problems are easier to get our hands on. Our votes are more powerful, our voices are more powerful. And I've learned that through experience. For a little over 3 years, I led advocacy for Bike Concord, which Laura mentioned. It's a group of Concord residents. Who want to make bicycling a safe and convenient transportation option in our city. And during those 3 years, Bike Concord grew from 4 people to several hundred. And by consistently showing up at public meetings with well-informed comments every time, like Laura's well-informed comment she delivered on that day with her Bernie shirt on, we transformed the attitude of the city of Concord. In 2014, council members were openly dismissive of bicycling as transportation, and our traffic engineers had zero interest in discussing projects with residents who wanted good quality bicycle infrastructure. By 2017, Bike Concord was frequently being consulted on opportunities to improve conditions for bicycling. And our city council now treats it as a given that those opportunities should be pursued. That's a long way from where we were, and that change was not inevitable. It was a result of people putting in the time to build a community and to show up over and over again, to have a say in the city's decisions. I saw firsthand that local government is a place where the persistence of ordinary people can change what is possible. But I did reach a point in my work where I realized I had to go beyond Bike Concord, as much as I love and appreciate the good people there. In October 2016, a coalition of organizations called Raise the Roof responded to rapid rent increases here in Concord by campaigning for a temporary moratorium on rent increases over 3%. As a representative of an organization with a specific limited mission, I wasn't free to advocate for that moratorium, and I started feeling called to move into a broader role where I could work on those urgent concerns for my neighbors. When City Council turned down the rent increase moratorium, I also saw that the needs of Concord's most vulnerable residents would not be adequately served by current council members. We would have to find a way to elect people with different priorities. And in late 2016, with Bernie Sanders having just proved that rich donors and corporations are not necessary ingredients of a serious campaign for office, I saw that it was time to stop waiting for other people to step up. I saw that a massive number of people would back candidates to serve, who were committed to serve and be answerable to all and not to the wealthy. So I intend to be such a candidate. I'm running on small donations from individuals only. And to keep myself answerable to all residents, regardless of wealth, I've set a contribution cap for my campaign of $200 per individual. No corporate contributions. This will make it harder to campaign. Campaigning does cost money, even for a grassroots candidate, but difficult and and impossible are two different things.
Right on.
Another step further. Our neighbors over in Richmond, the Richmond Progressive Alliance, have put up grassroots organizing and small money against the millions of campaign dollars spent by the Chevron Corporation. And through years of persistent work, RPA has replaced a city council that was owned by big spenders with one that answers to all Richmond residents. It takes time to build up a majority the way RPA has in Richmond. One council member can't and shouldn't be able to set policy alone. But one council member can shift what is politically possible by taking a stand on policy. So here are some policies I am taking a stand on, and you can continue to hold me to them after I'm elected.
All right.
Rent stabilization. I support an ordinance that limits the amount and frequency of rent increases in Concord. That doesn't mean a rent freeze such that landlords would actually take losses over time relative to inflation. It would have to allow a reasonable rate of return and account for real demonstrated cost increases. But maintaining a profit margin and maximizing profits are two different things. And on a matter as vital as housing stability, we should put that distinction into law. Second, on homelessness. I oppose the categorical treatment of our homeless residents as a problem to be swept away. And I will both support politically and work personally to build services that really meet their vital needs and treat them with dignity. Third, on protecting immigrants. I applaud the Immigrant Safety and Inclusion Resolution, which our City Council in Concord passed in September last year. That resolution was not easy to obtain. It was the result of hard work by organized advocates who had to overcome the reluctance of a risk-averse City Council. If I'm elected, I will be looking for further ways to protect our immigrant residents, emphatically including undocumented immigrants.
Yes!
And I will be willing to take personal and political risks to do so. There is opposition here in Concord to each of these policy positions. They carry a political cost, and that's a big part of why they haven't been adopted already. Shifting policy towards equity, dignity, and inclusion will require council members who take political risks to do the right thing. I'm ready to be one of those council members.
Right on.
But electing an official is just one means to an end, and the end is for the values of the governed to be enacted in governance. Positive change that lasts doesn't come from above. It comes from the will of ordinary people who care enough to work for a better world. People like the leaders and the members of our revolution, Contra Costa, and like people who put aside time on their Sunday and show up and vote with their time, their feet, and their energy. So thank you all for being those people. I hope for your support, and I look forward to working with you for a Concord which cares for the dignity and the well-being of everyone without exception.
Now we have time for two questions. Two questions. Yes, sir. Come on up.
What is your position on charter schools? I understand that one of the members of the Concord City Council works for a charter school trade association.
That's right, you're referring to Vice Mayor Carla O'Connor, and that's correct, she does. I was asked this question at the previous meeting of our Revolution Contra Costa 2, and I'm sorry, I can't give as unequivocal an answer as some might like. My concern with charter schools is whom do they answer to, whom do they serve, on the basis of what priorities are decisions made there. I've been digging into charter schools to try to figure out a clear answer to this question, and as far as I can tell, they vary greatly in who's in charge, who profits, and what is prioritized over what else, the well-being of students, profits, etc. So if a charter school is looking to come into the city, that's what I would not be saying yes charter schools, no charter schools. I would be saying who is running this, what are their motives, and are they putting the well-being of all students ahead of any other motivation such as profit? So I guess, frankly, I need some education on this matter a little bit, but those are my broad priorities on the basis of which I will be coming up with policy ideas as I learn more about the facts.
Okay. Oh, we got one.
Kenji, what should people write on their check for the payee name if they want to donate to your campaign?
Thank you for that excellent question. Right now, it's a long phrase. The thing you've got to write is Kenji Yamada for Concord City Council 2018. So I can take a cash or check at this point. I'm not set up for credit cards yet, but as I mentioned, the max I will take from anyone is $200.
Thank you, Kenji Yamada. When progressives win, communities win. When progressives win, the people win. Now, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I just want to tell you something. Gail McLaughlin, a hero of our movement, mayor of Richmond and one of the co-founders of the Richmond Progressive Alliance, she's on the ballot thanks to us, thanks to all of you. 14,000 signatures collected in California for Gail McLaughlin. She only needed 7. She only needed 7,000. That is the power that we have. No matter what corporate Democrat we're up against, no matter who our opposition, we can out-organize them, we can out-activist them, we can, stuck in my throat. We can knock on more doors, we can make more phone calls, we can do more texts, we can do more tweets, everything. We can outdo them. This is a new era, and I thank all of you for being part of this movement and being part of this time. Now, I want to make sure that everyone signs up before they leave. Put a little something in the donation can. You know, this costs a little bit of money. No matter what it looks like, this costs money. And there you go. There is the jar. Put $1. We will take no more than $27. That's our limit. That's our limit. Oh, Casey's book also. Discount tonight. Always got a book. So I just want to close this up. I want to hear from our co-chair, Lucy Riley, who's much smarter than I am and much more well-spoken. And what's good for all people is Medicare for all, education for all, justice for all. It's also good to prioritize women. It's good to have them in office. It's good to have them at the head of organizations like this. Lucy Riley.
Mark, thank you so much. And folks, I want to thank you so much for coming out today, for your compassion, for your persistence, and for your commitment. Because what we are building here today is something golden, and it's called community. And in communities, what we can do for ourselves is something that I like to call engaged citizenship, folks. When we engage in the political process as citizens, we are voting for ourselves. We are committing to a process to transform our daily lives. I want to see a show of hands, and I want to get an amen, if your life would be transformed by Medicare for All. I want to see another show of hands, and I want to get an amen if your life would be transformed by rent control in the state of California. I want to get a show of hands, and I want to hear a double amen if you believe in the depth of your heart that if we can educate every one of our children in this great country of ours, we can not only be that shining city on the hill, we can be a good neighbor to all the other countries across the planet that already believe in that. Can I get a double amen? Folks, we've got the money. We are the wealthiest country on earth. Here in California, we are the 6th wealthiest economy on earth. We can house our citizens, we can educate our citizens, and we darn for sure can provide healthy medical attention to everybody when they need it. Can we do that, folks? Folks, folks, there was a question here today about what do you do when you're polling at 3 and 4%? What do you do when you don't feel like you've got a chance against the establishment? And I'm going to share a quick little story, and then we're going to wind up, and I want everybody to order something from Grant Street Pub and Pizzeria because they have been so good to open up their house for us today, okay? So, September 29th, 2014, a day that will live in infamy in my life. It was my son's 11th birthday, and this old geezer from Burlington, Vermont, named Bernie Sanders, was coming to the Richmond Civic Center to talk to us about why corporate free campaigns are important. That was the year that we were running Gail McLaughlin, Javanka Beckles, and Eduardo Martinez for Richmond City Council. Chevron, who had owned our city and our city council for 40 years, put up $3 million in a city with 106,000 people. We're one of the poorest cities in California, and Chevron came out against our corporate free candidates with $3 million. Don't you know we felt like we were up against Goliath? Yeah. We said, okay. We got out 18 months in advance and we knocked on our neighbors' doors and we said, we want you to be looking for the 8x10 glossies that are coming with the Chevron candidates promotion on it. And what we want you to do is we want you to turn it over and we want you to look at the bottom where it says, paid for by Chevron. And we want you to collect those. And we want you to remember every time you get another one in the mail that this is a corporate polluter that is endangering you, your children, and generations of Richmond citizens with this toxic particulate matter coming out of their smokestacks. And we want you to remember, because we don't take corporate campaign donations, you can bet we're going to fight for you. And folks, I took my 11-year-old son out to hear Bernie Sanders the night that he came to talk to Richmond. He said, Mom, it's my birthday. Why are you dragging me out here, politician? I said, because 30 years from now, you're going to thank me for that. Because this man is going to put fire in your belly. And that's exactly what he did, folks. There were 1,000 people that came out to hear Bernie Sanders speak that night about why we should get behind these corporate free candidates. At the time, Bernie Sanders had not said that he was going to run for president, right? That was 6 months later, okay? Bernie Sanders talked to us that night. He got through giving that speech that he's given for 40 years, right? I bet every one of us in the room can repeat it, right? On income inequality. And he ended up with, the corporations can't have it all, folks. And then he said, but what are we going to do about it? Because, you know, Bernie's real good about passing the message on that many hands make light work, right? Because it's not about star power. It's not about worshiping heroes. It's about this thing called engaged citizenship, right? It's about you getting out and putting your time, energy, and effort into a vision, a progressive vision that you have for your family, right? And I was sitting there, tears coming down my face, and I was thinking, I'm a bedside nurse, man. I take care of people for a living. I walk families into the light when their loved ones are dying. What can I do? And Bernie Sanders looked out to everybody in that audience and he said, Richmond, Bay Area, what are we going to do? And to my son's, my 11-year-old son's horror and dismay, his mother got up on her feet and yelled, run, Bernie, run! And on the second run, 1,000 people were up on their feet. And 2 days later, 3 more Richmond Progressive Alliance candidates got elected by double digits, and we beat Goliath. I was there with all of you at the end of May, 1st of June, when Bernie Sanders was polling at 3% in 2015. We got busy. We reached out and we wrapped our opposable thumbs around the best political organizing tool that we've seen since we climbed out of the trees, and that was social media, folks. We got Bernie Sanders to 13 million voters across this country, folks. We got Bernie Sanders to $46 million in donations in 1 month that changed the political landscape for this country moving forward. Folks, we birthed this political revolution nationally. And now it's our turn to come back on the ground under our feet and evolve this revolution, right? Part of revolution is evolution, right? We're going to get busy. We're going to knock on doors for our candidates. We're going to make phone calls for our candidates. And we're going to give average